Tell me a little bit about what you are. I've had Alan alert you of a couple things, and I get clients alerting me of this stuff that they see on their social media. And, listen, Claude Code can come and do all this stuff, and, you can do it better than any top SEO. Obviously, we see this stuff all the time. I'm not asking you to handle me, but I'm asking you to just give a little bit of context of first, are we incorporating things into our premium SEO service, taking advantage of advances in technology? And what do you have to say about these various claims online that SEO, traditional SEO, can be handled by Claude Code? I've got my OpenClaw, set up to do all my SEO. So I would love your
Yeah,
take on that.
my transparent opinion on that is that there's been huge advances in what can be done and how it can be done, not necessarily in the results of what can come of it. There's a lot of technology, there's a lot of automation, but it's not even just about SEO. It's about everything you can possibly touch online, offline. Like I've said this to you personally before. I think this is the biggest change since the Industrial Revolution, and I'm loving it and I'm enjoying it like you would not believe. The stuff that I'm building is blowing my mind, and I couldn't even build a few months ago. So, look, I'm going to keep rambling on this because there's so much to go through. If we pull it back to marketing in general, the automation tools and software that now exist, the best part about it is the integration of different platforms that can all connect in and allow data to be like the integration, understanding one platform from the next. So if I even look at it from a whole business perspective, people used to do Facebook ads and they'll get delivered something by an agency once a month. Here's the leads we did, here's the impressions we did, here's the inquiries we did. We're doing our job. Perfect. Great. The business then goes, well, hang on, I have to somehow correlate this to my sales data. How many calls did we take? What was the show up rate? What was the booking rate? What was the no-show rate? What was the close rate? What was all of these other things from a sales call perspective? Now, then they have to marry that to the marketing data to get more holistic information. But then there's even other parts. It was now let's bring in the operational data and see about churn and refund rates and lifetime values. And now with automation technology, you can start to blend all of that stuff and really get clarity over what a business does and what matters to a business. So again, going back to marketing, that happens on the bigger scale with platforms and also on a micro scale with what you can do with some of these technology platforms. So you can connect analytics and search console together like you never could before. You don't have to run off Google Sheets. You don't have to try and do fancy formulas and all this crazy stuff. From the bit that everyone's seeing, which is my least favorite bit, which is OpenClaw, and being able to see that you can run a small machine or a virtual private server and it does all your mouse clicks and acts like a human. That's the least exciting part of all of it for me. There's so many security risks and there's so much stuff that can potentially happen there. I haven't even jumped in and played with it. I've read and seen and watched like crazy, but I'm doing way more from a terminal and coding perspective and a much more robust and rigid manner than what those things can possibly do. So there's a lot of opportunity that's going on at the moment. It's not gone from zero to this. There has been machine learning, there has been tools and systems, outreach systems, platforms, certain restricted levels of automation that have existed for a long time in pay-per-click, AdWords, Meta, SEO, data reactivation campaigns, the automation that's now baked into CRMs like Go High Level, for example, and the stuff that you can do through those platforms. So those things have been growing and growing over time, but there's just been big leaps that have happened now that are starting to interconnect things. And on top of that, given that AI is so new and fancy and is spreading everywhere, people are seeing some kind of video and going, boom, I believe that's done. But what we all know with a lot of social content as well is that there's a lot of hyperbole because it has to be done that way in order to spread in the right manner, in order to get the likes, comments, shares, and engagement. And when you sort of peel back what people are saying can be done and what can be done, sure that the gap's closing, but it's not the video that you'll see where someone says you can take care of all of SEO. It's not the case. You could press play, give it the instructions, and hope for the best. I would never let something do that to my business or my website. It would scare the hell out of me. You talked about Claude Code before. So Claude has, and so is Codex and everything else has multiple different levels of permissions and restrictions you can allow. There's an option called dangerously allow all edits or something like that. I forget the exact word. That's like putting the, automation platform, pressing play and saying, go and do everything to my website. You're right. You're 100% right. I don't even want to think about it. You're smart enough. It's not right. It's not okay yet, but it is so far beyond where it was that it excites me like there's no tomorrow. I know from building 12 different projects I'm building simultaneously that where it is at the moment is you're getting to the 90% mark of being able to get where you want to go. And that last 10% takes so long that and is often impossible compared to what you thought it was. So I have a lot of projects that I'm sitting there going, this is a no-brainer. I can get to that 90% mark. The reality is that some I have then just switched back to human in the loop at that last 90%. So I'm done because I know this is going to take me months, even with the smartest large language models trying to build it out. That's basically how I'm seeing where things are at the moment. It is super helpful up to a certain extent. You need people. You still need strategy. You need decision making. You need control. You need protection and security, and you can't let these things just run wild and take over your business, your revenue, and your livelihood because damage gets done. And there's a lot of stories out there at the moment showing that. So, sorry, feel free to interrupt. I could keep going for forever on
I
that topic.
I love what you're saying. I have a development team that's working with Claude Code, lots of different levels of Anthropic stuff, open Claude networks, server based, not machine, local machine, and advanced AI, and it is exactly as you say. This is from development down many different channels, and it's exactly as you say. There's some great things that are happening, but what they do is they pigeonhole sections of a project
Correct.
into and really button that up and put a lock and key on that and then put control in on that and then take the distilled product of that and they'll set up 5, 7, 19 different boxes and they get that result. And only with that are you then able to inspect it and make changes. Because if you go, here it is, and it
Hmm.
produces it, and you say, well, that's pretty good, but I want to change this. Now, when you change that, it messes everything else up.
Yeah,
So you know exactly what I'm talking about. So
absolutely.
I love what you're hearing. What I'd really love to know is from our premium SEO product, it was what it was when we came to the market with it, I guess about 7, 8 years ago. Just nothing could touch it. What I'm interested in is what are you doing differently today that, in layman's terms, a person would be able to understand? How have you incorporated some of these evolutions and changes so that people can understand, oh, listen, I'm still on premium SEO. Am I on the old? Or is that
Yeah.
like, so maybe you could touch on that a little bit.
I think let me try and rework the question a little bit as well as I mean, I guess what you're looking for is are these people saying, am I, the world has changed, perhaps SEO has changed, AI is changing, large language model search, ChatGPT, Google AI overviews, everything is changing. People are starting to search for things in a different manner or be displayed things in a different manner. Are we aligning and adhering to that? And the answer is absolutely. We'd all be dead in the water if we're not changing with the times. So, to sort of summarize what's happening, then I think the main one people are seeing is the Google AI overviews, which is the summary at the top now that's taking over position one. And effectively, what they're doing is Google's coming in, interpreting what you're searching for, reading content on all of the top results, digesting, summarizing it, and giving you the answer that it expects you're actually looking for. So what happens then is that the visitor that normally would have clicked through to your website and visited and made an inquiry, there's a lot of those clicks no longer hitting the websites. Number one answer there is we need to find ways that make you appear in that Google AI overview. And so what happens there is that ties back in yet again to standard SEO process. Do you have content that answers the question? Is it structured properly? Do you have authority? And are you worthy of being cited and mentioned by AI overviews? The same sort of structure, just presented in a different way from Google. Less clicks, but if you get yourself in, everyone's got less clicks, like not just you, it's everyone. But if you get yourself in that summary, then means that you're still being seen just in a different manner. Therefore, they can go and click through after that come through to your website. That also goes for things like ChatGPT that everyone's heard of, right? So the same sort of basis and structure exists for ChatGPT. When people are now going and saying, "Oh, who's the best reviewed dentist in Chicago?" It's based on the same kind of things. Best reviewed means you got to have your reviews doing well. The way that that it crawls, searches, and is indexed is all based on the exact same foundations and fundamentals. Is your website crawlable, indexable? Do you have the right content? Does it answer the question and the intent behind the question? Are you seen as credible and authoritative? And it's the exact same thing, just displayed in another way. But it's great now. You've got more than just Google. You've got all these additional places that people are starting to search for you as well. So there's more opportunities to be found. Are there no changes? There's changes in the way it's displayed. There's changes in the way people are searching for you. The core of what we need to do and are doing for clients has to remain. There's no swapping out. We no longer have to do this. You have to do it. We just have to do more now because you have to be seen in these additional places, and we have to talk to how some small tweaks to that algorithm and this one and so on. So, another point on that is that SEO used to be being found on the first 10 results on the front page of Google. If you're wanting to be found in AI overviews and searches on large language models, ChatGPT and so forth, they're searching for more than just the places you're linked to from and the content. They're finding where else you're being spoken about. So it's people talking about you on Reddit or Quora or on a guest post that was done over here on this website or a review or the directory over here. And it's consuming all of that and giving you answers and giving the person answers based on all of that. So now it is, are we doing what we used to do? Yes. And we're having to do more. We're having to be seen in more places. The goal is that all these tools want to see that you are a good business that they should drive traffic to. And so our job is to prove that. And you prove that by saying the right things, being in the right places, being seen as credible and authoritative, and having social content out there on social platforms, being a real business and being entity based. And what I mean by that is not just a website that you get ranked. It's now about entities. Do you exist in social? Do you exist on review sites? Do you engage in the community? Are you in press? Are you doing all of the things, not just the appearance of some of them? With a lot more good stuff coming back, there's a lot more work, and yeah, it's been done. There's no two ways about it.
Love it. Love it. So maybe Aaron, you could talk a little bit about the premium SEO product and what that is in broad strokes to maybe somebody who doesn't know what that is, or they have it. They're like, listen, my account manager at Bloomberg Digital said I need to be doing this. That's great. I signed up. I have no idea what it is. Can you give a good summary of things to be aware of today and how things are different, but things are really dramatically still the same? And it's just reinforcing all the basics we've been talking about. So when someone signs up for a premium SEO product, what are they getting?
What they're getting is us focusing on the three core pillars that have always existed in SEO. So that's technical, is we're ensuring your site is technically set up to be crawlable and indexable by Google and ChatGPT and Claude and everywhere else now. We are then doing content, which is the second pillar. So if you want to be found for something, we're making sure that we have content for that. If you want to be found for teeth whitening in your area and you don't have a teeth whitening page, it's not going to happen. You got to talk about what you do and have content that fills all of the gaps too, all of the services and all of the locations, as well as search intent, what people are looking for. I've got tooth pain. What they're really meaning is whatever you're offering on your service page, right? So it's understanding all the different ways people can search for you, creating content, making sure you have that on your page. So technical content, and the third one is links. And so links are effectively votes for your website. So if you're linked to from other relevant websites on the web back to relevant content on your website, it's considered a vote in the eyes of the search engines. In addition to that, we go out and we do the link acquisition. We do guest posting for you, make sure that we are driving those links back to the client's websites. On top of that, being seen, getting citations. So name, address, and phone consistency for your practice, and making sure that we have that in top directories and numerous places around local directories in your area and things like that, so that there is a consistent repetition of that being shown to Google and everywhere else that says, this is who we are, this is how we be found, we are an entity. We're not just a website, we're an entity. Beyond that, I mean, there's some stuff that we're looking at the moment around press releases, media, constantly being seen as a authority in your industry by making sure that we're getting that content distributed on big news sites, and many of them on a monthly basis, talking about new services, new offers, or changes to the practice, whatever it is. So that kind of distribution touches on a lot of the AI stuff that I said before, in being able to be seen in places that aren't necessarily linking to you, but we're talking about you. And so that kind of ticks that big box as well. And that all plugs together to make sure that there's no old school SEO here. This is making sure that you're found now for the AI search engines and the way that Google's changing to AI overviews and the progression. I think we're only at the beginning of all this, and it's going to continue.
Fantastic. And I know that individuals will take this video and say our client sends it to a person who's contacting them, says that they're from Google and that they're going to get them to number one in 2 weeks, and that they do links and they can get them 1,000 links right away. To the layman, I mean, you and I know what that all means. Can you explain what's going on and why that the quick strategy that, I can do this for a tenth of the cost and achieve that far faster than what Bloomberg Digital is offering? Why should a person be scared of that? And what's the technical behind the scenes of what that person's actually doing?
You absolutely can do it, and you'll be dead in the water in a very short period of time. Google penalties exist, they're a real thing. If you want to turn SEO back and turn the clock back 10, 15 years, even more, this stuff worked. Black hat SEO worked, dodgy stuff worked. Pay $300 a month for your SEO and your web hosting all in one, and think that you're going to get anywhere. That still exists in so many places, which blows my mind. There's a lot of web development companies saying, yeah, but pay this every single month and we'll do your SEO. And all they do is an auto-generated report, and they give it to you and say, we did your SEO. It's not something that actually moves the needle. The reports don't move the needle. The work effort in proper quality links from relevant websites to your site, the proper content that's actually relevant to you, your geographic area, all of that kind of stuff. That takes resource, time, strategy, money, and effort. For any dentist that sits there and says, I charge out my time at this much, this is how much these services cost. How could you possibly think you're going to get these kind of services for $200, $300, whatever people are throwing out there? You just can't. You're going to get nothing, or you're going to get penalized, or you're going to get results for a very short period of time and then it's gone. You get what you pay for. Unfortunately, there's no real certifications, there's no governing body in this kind of industry. And so there's loads of people that, fly by night scammers trying all the dodgy ways of doing everything and take your money and leave and don't really care. It's not their business, right? You're not going to find them wherever they are. And offshore somewhere. So it's not the way to go. You wouldn't pay a couple of $100 for some dodgy dental work and think you're going to come out looking amazing. You're going to get what you paid for.
So true. I want to take that up for a second. You just mentioned Google's and penalty. You could do certain things that'll get you penalized. Can you talk on that? I don't want to scare people
Sure.
unduly, but I do want people to be aware of they're a good person. They want to do things. They obviously want to do things faster and cheaper. So there's nothing wrong with that intention and that effort. They get pitched by somebody who they themselves don't even know that it's wrong or false. They learned it from their former boss, who might have learned it from his associate. And so they're three rungs down, and they think that's best practice. And they're doing these best practices, which can get you penalized with Google. Can you talk about what that means specifically? What does that mean, penalized by Google,
Yeah.
and what sort of knock-on effects that could be?
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked, because a lot of people will throw around those terms like they to scare people into working with them, and it's just used in all the wrong ways as well. And it doesn't make much sense the way it's been communicated. So Google penalties, there's multiple of them. There's algorithmic penalties where you're algorithmically, programmatically, they've seen you doing something that doesn't really align and look right, and you bump down a few rankings here and there. The bigger one, the scarier one's the manual penalty, is where you're clearly trying to abuse something. You're building 4 million links to your website for $400 that you found some guy selling online. Every single one of those links says best dentist Chicago on the anchor text, and all of a sudden it's unnatural. It goes through an algorithmic process, hits the manual reviewers, they look at it and they give you a manual penalty. And that effectively can happen in multiple ways. They can either remove all non-branded searches, your rankings for all non-branded searches. So anyone searching for teeth whitening Chicago, if you were ranking because of all of this dodgy links and whatever else, you're going to be removed from that index. The
Completely,
second,
like removed from it completely. And
other than if someone was searching for your practice name,
which is a
um,
branded search. So
branded search.
if it's ABC Family Dentistry and somebody puts that, then Google will represent that and
Yes.
bring that practice up. But
Yeah.
if that's a branded search, but if it's outside of their brand name being mentioned, then they're
Correct. But what you want as a business is those non-branded searches. You want people to not have to know about you to come and use your services. And that's absolutely critical. So that's the most painful one that happens. And that's the first one. The worst one is you're removed from the index completely, branded and non-branded searches. And it can be devastating. I mean, I've seen businesses take 18 months of cleanup to try and get back in Google's index. And you're sitting there faced with no revenue coming through and deciding whether I need to rebrand, burn the domain, buy a new domain name, start from scratch. And then you've lost all the history of the good work you've also done, brand growth, credibility, everything you've done over time. Getting penalized properly is never a good idea, something to avoid. And honestly, the quickest thing that you can do, there's two things. One, SEO costs money. SEO is a valuable investment for your business, as is running ads, as are database reactivation campaigns. They take money because they make money, and it's a proper investment. If you're being offered small amounts for something and promised the world, just the alarm bell should be ringing straight away. The second bit is we're sitting here talking about AI. Jump in, ask Google, ask ChatGPT. I just got offered SEO for my business for $300. Does this sound like a good idea? I'm a dentist. I work in this area. I'm trying to compete in New York. And I'm pretty sure it'll give you some very intelligent responses.
fantastic. There's an interesting thing. Some of our dental practices, they battle with people who say, well, listen, I could go to India and I could get this done, or I could go across the border in Mexico and I could get this done for a quarter of the price or an eighth of the price. And there's truth to that. There's literally a community in Mexico. What we've trained our dental practices up to do and say in that regard is 100% you can't. And that's a fact. You're going to have to travel to Mexico. And if you do, we do suggest it. We just use the collective results and some of the things to be concerned about. We combine that and tell our practices, just really educate the patient about this. You could go across the border. If you do, go into that cartel controlled area because it has the least amount of crime, which is true. The cartel
Mm-hmm.
controlled area, they do mitigate the crime. And you just don't walk at nights, but cartel will keep the crime down. So they because all of those practices are contributing and paying the cartel to control the crime, and of course their vig, right, their percentage. And then when you go to the dentist, ask them to see the sterilization of the needle. A number of patients will go and they won't properly sterilize the needle because they don't have the same clinical standards that they have to adhere to in Mexico that they have to do in the United States or Canada. And so if you have an unsterilized needle, all sorts of things can happen, but a lot of patients will end up with lockjaw, which can range anywhere from 2 days to 6 months, where your jaw is locked and you can't use it. And then, of course, you want
Yeah.
to find a dentist who has worked on a live person before. A lot of people are going down there as interns and they've only worked on cadavers or dogs, dead dog heads and such. So many stories that come out where patients come back across. And then, of course, if you want to get something fixed, you have to go down there because no US dentist and no Canadian dentist will ever touch work done overseas. And so that you have to get it serviced and go back down there, which might be a vacation for some people, but for a lot of people not. You might end up getting more damage done and you have to totally redo the job. And educating people about the potential ramifications then puts them into space where they can say, listen, I'm willing to take that risk for
Yeah.
1/8 or 1/4 the cost. But I think for our clients, the clients that we service, it's so helpful for them to better understand those ramifications. And I think what you're saying is so powerful. So, is there anything else you can educate our clients about so that they really do
Sure.
understand the consequences?
Even before I sort of get to that, I just like this is your business. This is your livelihood. Like you just don't invest in cheap stuff without doing a little bit of research. Look at credibility, look at authority, look at reputation of the people you're dealing with. Do they have a footprint? Are they seen anywhere? Do they have a name? Have they put effort into their own business to be worthy of dealing with your business and risking your business? Everything's a risk to some degree if you're going to let a service person help you. Same with dentistry, right? The reality is do the research. Don't go in blind. This is your livelihood. This is your business. Be smart, put in the effort, and go with reputable vendors because it's worth the money and it's not worth the risk to cross that border and go into cartel territory and do all of that.
Fantastic. Good. I want to segue over to our Executive Vice President for Digital Innovation, Mr. Alan Steen, who also is seeing our clients who are taking advantage of our video platform where we give people these videos and they're not scripts. We give them questions that are the most commonly asked questions on Google. And
Sure.
then we have the doctors respond. And you've been working and you've been optimizing that stuff. So, Alan, I'd like you to touch on anything about that you've seen, as well as any questions you have for Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, you covered a lot of the questions that I was going to ask, honestly, almost all of them. But to do a little bit of pushback, I guess, is that a lot of what we've talked about is businesses in the past that you're not investing because it does take money to get a good product, which I think everyone understands. But I guess my question would be, at this point, Claude and AI, ChatGPT has really moved the needle so much further and is able to do so much more work than what you would have been able to do in the past. So there are, I think, some legitimate questions around people who are building agencies at a lot, pennies on the dollar comparatively to what existed before. So I'd be curious to get your input on basically what's the difference between a legitimate agency like ourselves versus someone who has Claude and all these AIs are actually very good and they can do a lot and they are very capable. So I just want to put that in comparison to like
Sure.
previous.
The tools don't make the business. It's as simple as that. No matter how brilliant they are at the moment, they just don't make the business. I'm loving them. I'm in a position where I've got 20 years of marketing business and SEO experience that have met tools that meant that I can benefit from this more than most people in the world because of it's a unique meeting of the times and the experience. Just because someone jumps on Claude, sees a video and asks some questions and gets some responses back that read as legitimate and seem right doesn't mean that they can take that and get that stuff implemented in a way where there's any confidence, trust, strategy, human protection, all that kind of stuff. And so there are still a lot of other hoops to jump through. And again, someone coming out now or a million people coming out now saying, I'm doing SEO, I'm doing meta ads management through Claude and all the other stuff, SMS management, AI calling systems. I've built all of these. I have access to all of them. Just because they're saying that they can do that doesn't mean that they can do it in a way that impacts the business properly or impacts the practice in a way that is protective of the business, that has fallbacks, rollbacks, humans in the loop, things that can protect when these things go wrong. And they do go wrong, they can go wrong. I think one of the point that I sort of want to dig deeper on there is the fact that these tools, ChatGPT, Codex, Claude, Gemini, the way that they speak to you, the way that they speak back to you, their job is to seem as convincing as possible. They have data, they have information, and they communicate back to you in a way that it's really hard to, unless you dig further, unless you go dig deeper, have conversations. I've got months-long conversations and threads with particular chats just for context and memory reasons why. And I push back, I challenge it, I put AI on itself. I use Claude to come up with a strategy and I use ChatGPT to poke holes in it and peer review it. And I go back and forth nonstop, sometimes 20, 30 times till I get an ultimate thing where I'm like, this is right. Now, the vast majority of people out there will go there, run a tool, run SEO, run PPC audit because Claude says it can do it. It's believable enough information and they're done. They don't have the wherewithal, the context, the understanding, and the focus and the history and experience to know that that sounds right, but I need to poke at this area a little bit. There's a potential hole here. That's kind of what's happening in the industry at the moment. People are throwing videos out where TikTok video, I can do anything, I can do SEO with Claude. Well, no, they showed a video where they can do one thing with Claude, or a couple of things in a row with Claude, they didn't show that they probably spent hours building this out, building out the prompts, stress testing this, understanding that it might work in this industry, but not at that industry. Or if Google Analytics is configured in this way, it'll work perfectly, but it's not for every site. Or Search Console doesn't have historic data, and I've got to store that in the database first before I can do this. There's like a million gotchas, and you don't see those gotchas in these videos because they're not designed for that. And I think that's critical to understand, is that there's stuff going on right now that's utterly convincing. There's code going around. There's GitHub code repos. There's videos all over the place that convince people that AI and machine stuff can take over everything right now. There's massive advancements, but the people who are actually getting somewhere with it are the ones with the experience and knowledge to know when it's actually right or not, and to point those amazing tools in the right direction.
Totally. Great.
I want to ask something about that. And I think it's such, it's funny because Alan just did a video almost exactly what you just said on that point to educate, our clients because, yeah, they're being hit by this. They're being hit by this in social media. And I think it's interesting, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, is so AI has a very interesting thing. Well, a couple different interesting things. One is it's hallucinogenic, and people
Right.
don't understand how AI hallucinates. Some people have heard about it, and some people know about it, but AI will come up with answers that are totally invented and actually totally false, and convincingly present something that's totally off. So it has that. And then on top of that, it is built by nature to validate the person prompting it. If the person themselves isn't doing exactly as you just said, challenging it and using AI against AI to poke holes and using that against experience and true knowledge and understanding, they will seem like they've come up with the world-changing strategy, and AI is like, you go boy,
Yeah.
you're amazing. How you came up with this, that's, you're going to dominate the world. So AI is hallucinating, AI's validating to the prompter, and it gives this person this idea that they're like they've just cracked the code on the universe.
Yeah.
Can you just talk a little bit about your experience about that
My,
and anything
my,
technically you've seen?
my experience is identical. In fact, just on the lighter side of that, I've changed the tone in any of the AI that I talk to so that it feeds back to me in a really ironic, even arrogant manner, so that I don't have to have the, oh, you're right, you're on the right path. Like, I've set system prompts that sit there and say, poke holes in your stuff, don't agree with everything I say, argue with me, tell me I'm wrong, expose my thoughts. And again, you don't use these things as a single question and an answer. You use these things for weeks, months. You use across different models to validate, to challenge, to come up with different ideas. Literally, there is nothing I do that I do not go from one model to the next now to really find those holes. And I found it especially interesting that if you say I need a strategy document built, I get a strategy document built or a bit of code built or a framework built, and I say, I'm going to have you peer reviewed this by another AI and another team. This needs to be concrete. And I find it'll go back and then do it even better without even saying anything. And it'll do a better job than it would have because it knows it's going to be peer reviewed. You're absolutely right. There's hallucination everywhere. There are holes in things. It's incredible. It's the most exciting thing that I've seen. And there are still problems with it. This is a point that I'm hearing as we're having this conversation. A minute ago, we're talking about not paying cheap $300 a month services. Well, the goal behind that is that obviously that the dentists, they want to increase profit and lower expenses. We're saying don't go to these cheap places. And now they're getting bombarded with, oh, it can be done automatically and high end by the smartest thing. I mean, it's the same thing. It's uncontrolled. Don't do it. Those smart tools exist in the hands of the right people and the right agencies with the experience. That's when they're dangerous. There is no replacement for humanity yet in these areas, but there is advancement, and that's amazing.
Fantastic. Alan, I'm sorry I interrupted you. I'm curious if you had another question there.
Yeah, I want to give another, I feel like I want to give another harder question and some pushback on that. So all these tools coming out that can do keyword research, they can create content, they can do audits. They're making the workflows a lot more efficient. So it's a question for me, and I think it's a question for a lot of people. If AI is able to take so much of that workload and do so much work for you efficiently, Then the next question is, why is the price, not drastically dropping for our business, for all other businesses in this kind of industry?
I mean, that goes to a broader question around like all business changing, jobs being, people losing thousands of jobs in different companies and so on and so forth. For me, the way that I see this is the absolute grunt work, bottom of the barrel kind of jobs, they're gone. I don't know how the Philippines and India are going to survive through this particular period because so much stuff has been outsourced over there for cheap when you can now get machines to do it. One, it doesn't wipe it out completely. You need humanity, you need strategy, and you need people. Instead of doing the grunt work, you now have to be smart enough to know how to point machines at things and get the right results out of it, like we've been talking about. So the whole area of jobs and employment that have opened up and is going to be expanding are people who know how to use and operate AI and automation and coding and point things in the right direction. I think that's absolutely exploding at the moment. So it's just a shift of where this work was, what this work was, and where this work is going. The other part is that, and I sort of touched on this before, it's looking to people who have not been in the industry. Like everything's been done manually forever. Now it's all done automatically by AI at no cost. And that's not the case. There's been tools that have existed all the way through that have gotten better and better and better. There's been keyword research tools forever. There's been API sources that if you manually knew how to code, you could pull out keyword research at a good volume. There was people who could play with Google Sheets and other custom made tools to be able to produce keyword research at scale, and even programmatic SEO, where you take those keywords and you build hundreds of thousands of pages automatically through HTML. This stuff has existed for a very long time, many years. It's just that people are thinking that it's come out of the blue now because of AI. So yes, there's steps all the way. This is a cool new big step, but it's not wiping out your whole workforce. You still need people for things and you still need them. They're just doing different jobs. And I guess the other side of the answer to that is that it means that we can do things a bit more efficient, better, and to a higher quality with less guesswork. And that gets passed on to the client. More certainty over things, less downtime when someone makes a website change and no one knows because there's no monitoring system in place. Well, now we've got monitoring systems in place where we can see that you changed the H2 tag on that website or your website's been down for half an hour. Who pulled that down? We've got automatic alerts now. We can send it out to wider teams and call and say what's gone on here. So it's advancement, but not from A to Z. There's a lot that means that we can do our job better, and a lot that means that, and a lot more job to do now as well. We spoke about earlier. We've got to rank in all these AI search places as well. So there is more work to be done. Everything's a shift. There's nowhere where the marketing industry has been wiped out. SEM providers, meta providers, web developers, no one's been wiped out. The roles have shifted and the expectations have shifted and the needs have shifted.
I think it's first of all, it's a great question, Alan, and Alan's playing devil's advocate here, and I hope you understand the
Good. Yeah,
necessity of
no,
that.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
And if I can kind of summarize what you just said, if I and you tell me if I got it right, there are tools out there. You guys are using those tools. You're utilizing those tools. That's making your job easier, faster, and better. While the market has just shifted and gotten actually much more competitive, much more expansive, and you're meeting those demands. Like you just said at the very beginning of this, now we've got, Google AI search, which is at the top of every search. And I did notice it's pushed down your Google business profiles down. It's like everything's been shifted. So things also just got more difficult, more competitive, more diverse, and more challenging. So you got to meet those challenges. You got to come up to speed on those, and you got to use your tools to be able to do so. But just like in dentistry, they've got AI, robotics now for implants. And it's not like the dentist isn't in the room. You don't want some dentist who's straight out of school because he's cheaper. You want a dentist who's placed 5,000 implants to be
Yeah.
there to make certain that everything goes as planned. That's today. Maybe in the future, you'll be able to walk into a practice and there's an AI receptionist, an AI assistant, and there's robotics and everything just goes. We're just not there yet, and we're not there for dentistry, and we're not there for marketing. It's great, the stuff that's come. It's great. It's fantastic. It alleviates workflows. It builds in these things you just talked about, as far as alerts and reports and summaries, and yeah, just fantastic. We're using it. You're using it. in your premium SEO strategy. So fantastic. But you need a human and you need an experienced human if you want it done right, because you just cannot turn this loose. Would you say that I kind of summed that up?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's one of the best shifts I've seen, but don't get me wrong, there's no fairy tale where you press a button and your business is looked after in every marketing area, in your receptionist and everything. It's not there yet, despite what the TikTok videos show.
That's great. Great. Okay, good. Alan, any other questions you got?
Yeah, I wanted to see if you had any advice basically for our clients or anyone really in this industry. Again, if there's anything that they can be doing to help move the needle. It's not, these guys aren't in an e-commerce business where it's fully reliant, I feel like, on that. So if I don't know if there's any shifts with all the changes and with AI moving in and getting on, ranking on ChatGPT or Claude or whatever else, if there's things that dentists and dental practices could be doing to help move that themselves
Yeah.
up.
And I'm going
Not
to modify that, just Aaron, just so you understand. So we always tell our clients 80% is going to be on us, 20% is going to be on you. And we're going to do our part in the 80%, but boy, you've got to do your part in the 20%. So what Alan's talking about, what is that 20% as it relates to what Alan's just talked about?
Honestly, the 20% for them stays in exactly what they're doing now. They don't need to shift things. The shifts are in the 80%, not in the 20%. But the one thing I would say is join the AI club, get on there and show how you're using AI in your business and your practice and how that is moving things along, because that's where the world is going. If you don't want to be seen as not staying up with the times and advancing yourself, then make sure that's demonstrated in your content. Talk about the latest tools and machinery and how AI is impacting that. That's where I'd be focused.
Let's talk about that. So that 20%, you said it hasn't changed. It's what you've always done. And you talked about it in the very beginning of this, where you talked about reviews. You talked about, can you just reinforce that? Like, what are the foundations that the practice has to focus on? Alan and I and the whole team at Bloomberg Digital, we're telling them, man, get on video, get the video, like explainer videos, answer the most commonly asked questions on video. I understand you don't like the way you look or the way you talk or how you sound on video, and you're embarrassed and you don't want to be the dancing dentist and all that. But we spend time convincing our clients to just get your content online with you, authored by you, reviews. Can you just touch on those basics as you see them?
The problem with that is that you just answered the question while asking it. So that's exactly what you just said. Do the content, answer questions, and solve problems in your industry. Video is the highest and best form of media that you can use, and we can strip that out and use that in so many different ways, channels and places. Do the videos, set habits, do one a day, do whatever you could do, just repeat it. There's a million questions in your industry. Repeat the habit every single day until, honestly, how you look on camera is going to be the last thing you're thinking about when the patients are flying through the door and paying you because they saw a video that shows what you're doing. Focus on it from that perspective.
Love that. And talk about reviews. We
Yeah.
constantly reinforce reviews, but from your SEO premium strategy perspective, can you
Yeah.
talk on that?
Yeah. So the number one, it's going to be a close number one important thing that you need to do to rank in the Google Maps area, the Google My Business, is an ongoing steady flow of positive reviews. Not a bunch on one day and then nothing, but consistent. Your competitors are doing it. You've got to do it. It's business operation. It's your receptionist. It's your admin person. It's their job to ensure that it is done. No one leaves without a review. You got to find a way to make it happen because it is critical. It helps more than you would know with your rankings and your traffic online.
Amazing. And so we tell our clients that there's four real key factors with reviews. It's the number of reviews, it's how frequently they're adding reviews. Are they answering and engaging with reviews? Certainly, we actually tell them they must answer all negative reviews. How do you see those things being weighted? And what about the different platforms, Yelp and other things? Because you said earlier in this interview that it's important that, because AI is now going to places that people might not normally go. I saw
Right.
MapQuest being referenced by ChatGPT.
Yes. Yeah. You're absolutely right. That's the unfortunate thing and the evidence of you got to be everywhere and do everything more now, because it's not just coming from your website, it's coming from everywhere that's mentioning you, talking about you, that you can possibly get reviews in. And you're in competition with the other people in your local area, the other dental practices. If they're going to do it, you got to do it. Or even if they're not going to do it, get ahead, because if this is what matters now, and we're continuing to go down this path, put yourself in the best position you can moving forward. Get reviews everywhere. Definitely answer the reviews. Handle the negative ones. There's a huge crossover now between just SEO and online reputation management, which effectively this is managing your reputation in many places across the web, so that not only people but also AI overviews and any of these summary engines are able to give people the right answers based on how you're truly seen and perceived.
Now, you mentioned be everywhere in social media. A lot of our clients say, I just want you to do everything. I want you to do all our social media posts. I want you to do everything. You could do AI generated videos. I don't want to, I want a touchless environment. Can you tell about the negative impact if that person takes that view and they're not posting organically on social media, they're not doing video? What effect is that going to have today with AI search and with, current SEO standards?
It ties back into the phrase I keep using about entity optimization and your name, your brand, and everything about you being seen in as many places as possible. It's key. You are representing an actual business and a real brand. And so without that, you're losing points. You've got other people that are doing it, and you're going to fall behind. It's the world of SEO has changed, and you need to be seen everywhere, even if it's not linking back to you. So that's what, social comes into play. It never used to anywhere near like it does now. And now it used to come into play because people see your brand, then they search for your brand, then they find your website, and those brand clicks through to your website mean that you're going to rank higher. Well, now it's a lot more connected. AI reads social, can crawl, index everything and understand it. And this entity map and knowledge graph that you're creating matters from a first-hand perspective rather than a second-hand perspective. So it's critical. You've got to do it.
I've got a few of our top clients now transitioning and a little bit of a pilot program we're running, which is essentially creating a reality TV show on YouTube. If you take a look at reality TV, why that kicked in, and why that was so popular, well, you really got to see real people in everyday life situations all around, some vertical interest, right? Like you see Orange County Choppers, and they were talking about building custom motorcycles, but people who were not interested in custom motorcycles or Harley Davidsons or anything like that, building a motorcycle got interested because you got to meet people. And then they found out that reality TV was by and large scripted. They weren't reading from scripts, but they were, it was all laid out and it was a bit of a
Directed.
hoax. It was directed. And then you see reality TV coming in for just homegrown businesses where these guys, you see a guy pitching watches and he sells watches in New York. And this person over here is, refurbing a car, in the UK, and he builds crash damaged cars, and he takes those crash damaged cars and, goes through the challenge of rebuilding it and that sort of thing. If you're interested in that, of course, you can do something and learn about it. If you're not interested in it, you get to meet the personalities, and, people like to watch. I don't know what it is. People like to watch. But then on top of that, you get to meet the people inside. And so we're having
Yeah.
some of our top practices, some of our top BD, Bloomberg Digital clients now start to just document the internal workings of talking with patients and going over things. A little bit different in medical because you've got to have a HIPAA waiver signed for marketing
Yeah.
purposes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they get the agreement from the patient or patients involved. But there's the internal. You get to see the team members and stuff, putting that on YouTube, putting that on their website, and creating a bit of I'm not going to say a cult following, but just a fan base of people. And now some of our clients have people traveling from multiple states away because they know the people inside the practice in and out as much as they think they do.
Yeah.
And tell me your thoughts about that.
I think it's amazing. I think it's a really good idea because the industry, there's many people that are scared of dentists. There's many people that are semi-scared of dentists, completely scared, all these different levels. And for me, what you're building is familiarity prior to the point of them actually converting into a customer. And so is a big, a patient in this instance. There's a big focus on conversion optimization and broadening the net and dealing with an issue that many people have without actually having to say or do anything about the issue itself. You're literally just documenting the practice. I think it's a great idea.
Good, Alan. Any other questions before we wrap up?
I don't think from my end. I thought that was extremely helpful. There's a ton of great information that you shared with us, Aaron. So thank you.
Yeah. You're very welcome.
Good. And for those to know, so Aaron heads up our premium SEO offering. I'd love you to tell a little bit about your credentials and your experience. Aaron leads the SEO team to make certain that our premier clients or on a premier SEO service. Aaron, you want to just talk about your credentials for a second?
Touched on it before, almost 20 years now in the industry, which makes me feel real old. Been working with medium to enterprise clients globally. So Intel, IBM, Ford, Coca-Cola, Salesforce, a lot of startups, funded startups, pretty much every industry you can think of, and gone through many an algorithm change and many an update, and I've seen some stuff over the years, and a lot of my own projects that we work on, and businesses as well. So I have a lot of good experience in the industry. I understand what needs to be done for big business, and we have been able to parlay that and use that into helping Blumberg Digital to deliver on what we need to deliver, so that we can help the small guys win as well.
Beautiful. And for those that don't know, so the way we operate at Bloomberg Digital is we have strategic partners to take specialty items of our offerings. And those partners, those strategic partners, are the top of the top at their field, And so while Aaron has probably got more experience with larger entities that have a monthly retainer for SEO somewhere between 30, 50, $200,000 and more per month, being a longtime friend of Jeremy Bloomberg, our CEO, and having worked with Jeremy on an earlier business that he sold, knows that this is the team. And this team here specializes in not taking shortcuts, not cutting corners, offering a premium service, and doing so at a scale and a level that is above what any other marketing company in dental has ever touched on. Certainly more expensive than most, but as Aaron said, you get what you pay for.
Absolutely. I stand by that. It's not something I'd shy away from.